Hello, everybody. Welcome to a special episode. We are here with Kevin Kenerson. Kevin, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me.
It is my pleasure. So, in the roughly top 100 loan officers in the United States, I am just honored to have you on the show. And I always like to start with, in today's market conditions, where are you finding you're getting the majority of your business from right now?
Well, what's kind of interesting is I am a full purchase driven
Nice.
loan originator.
Yep.
Like I've always been purchase driven. Yes, refinances they're very lucrative. Like you get drawn into them, but you try to resist as much as you possibly can. And it's great to pull the low hanging fruit in your database and working that system. But for the most part, we've been built based off of relationships, agent relationships, and that's where we get a majority of our business. It's a long play,
Yep.
and sometimes you don't make a whole lot of money on the relationship at the very beginning, but you have to have an understanding that this could take many years. Maybe it takes 6 months, maybe it takes a year. And I kind of like I've gotten really big into chickens over the last couple of years because in this business you have to have you've got to have balance.
Yep.
If you don't have balance, you're going to fizzle out.
Yep.
So one of the things that I do is I tend chickens, and there was no better, I think, lesson in life. Chickens are so similar to realtors and that realtor relationship. So when you look at it, what do you get baby chicks for? Typically, what do like you're getting baby chicks because at some point in time you want eggs.
Right.
Okay. I'm a vegetarian, so I don't eat the meat, but you could if you ate chicken.
Yep.
So, I'm going after the egg because I love chickens. And, at some point in time, you will get a little baby chick from raising that little chicken.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's messy. Like you're cleaning up their pens every day. You're feeding them, and they require your attention all of the time.
Yep.
And at some point in time, you get something out of it. And when you get that egg or you get that first deal from that agent, it's a great reward. So that's kind of my look at these relationships, and you have to tend to them every day. Like you have to be in front of your agents every day. If you don't, you could have a coyote or you could have a hawk or something come and take that chicken away.
And that's the business that we are in. So
It's the business that we're in. Yeah.
that's
But yeah, majority of our business is just coming from agent relationships. And for me to say that I would like to have more agent relationships, obviously, we would. And I've pulled myself out of this business just a little bit on the origination side, like the day-to-day task and things. And we've built a really strong team so that I can work on the relationships, because really that's where you've got to put your efforts in. And now I know we'll talk about it a little bit more, but all the value that we have to add our agents and whether it's the conversations of how to grow their business. It's really easy to grow your relationships when you go to an agent and say, hey, agent, have you thought about doing X, Y, and Z? And a lot of the things, it's just trying to create that partnership that's going to take some things away from the agent. Like they don't have to create their marketing material. They don't have to do their CMAs. We're going to help them do some of those things for them. We're going to talk about one-off loan programs like a 1% down or a down payment assistance program or a bank statement program or a no-income, no-employment loan. There's lots of things that we can do to help grow their business. And so majority of my business is coming from agent relationships.
That's amazing. So have you fully stepped out of the processing of loans and you're 100% just on meeting new agents, relationships, tending existing relationships?
Well, I would say there's about 5% of my day that's actually talking to consumers, talking to new clients that come in the door. I found that I'm best at talking about nerdy stuff, and that's talking about numbers and talking about the market. Like I love the market. I love studying mortgage-backed securities and treasuries and MBS Highway and Barry Habib and Dan Habib. They've made us look like we're professionals. Like I'm not that smart, but they've made me look really smart. So,
Yeah, MBS Highway is absolutely fantastic. Barry and Dan over there are just amazing, and the tools that they built and continue to build are just incredible.
absolutely.
Um,
Yeah, what they give back to our community and what you guys are giving back to our community is absolutely phenomenal. But yes, to answer your question, I'm just doing more of the consulting.
Okay.
Occasionally I'll take an application, but I'm not really inside of it much of that. It's just basically tending to relationships, stepping outside of the business and growing it, trying to make it run a lot more efficiently.
That's amazing. So I guess we'll kind of go a little bit deeper into those referral relationships. And we'll start at, I think, what is probably the easiest win for most loan officers that are listening to the show right now, which is existing relationships. So you've got a real estate agent, potentially on the other side of the transaction, but somebody that you've done a deal with. What are you doing to maintain those relationships and make sure that they're not picked off by other people courting their business?
Yeah, I think what we've done really, really well at is making sure that we become so much part of their business they can't go anywhere else.
Mm,
Meaning, we're going to create a listing presentation for them so that they can take it to a seller and say, "Hey, seller, these are all the things that we're going to offer you." And an agent doesn't have to pay anything for the marketing that we're providing to them, whether it's the listing presentation, the CMA that looks really professional,
yep.
that can be scaled out really, really well, to the listing flyers, to the open house flyers, to helping support their open houses, to doing a post housewarming party after closing, to giving them a cutting board after closing. And it's all of these things that if they don't do business with us, they don't have this process. And so I'm really big about FOMO. So I want to make sure that we create FOMO to these other agents. Occasionally you will lose an agent
Yep.
just because they have someone that's talking to them all the time. They see that we're doing business with them, so they're like, you know what, I'm going to go after this agent. It happens.
Yep.
It happens at the business. So, but then they come back and you're like, you know what, your process is really amazing. What you offer is really amazing. So I think for us, it's just a matter of making sure that we're actually a real partnership. This business is really about, okay, yes, there's a lot of companies that can close loans. We all have similar products. We have very similar interest rates, but we really have to dial in and find out why we're different. And for us, and for me, going back to 2022, I went to a position because I've been in this business so long. Well, I say so long, like 23 years almost. And so we've been through cycles,
Yep.
and we understand that if an agent, and there's attrition in this business, we understand that if we lose an agent, we lose that business.
Yep.
So it was a matter of making sure that we created the right mindset for them. The sky wasn't really falling in. It was just really getting back to a normal kind of market.
Yep.
Like right now, we're in a normal market.
Yep.
This is, in fact, it's really actually a healthy market. Like interest rates are really good. The amount of supply in most areas is really good. It tends to be a little bit more of a buyer's market, but for us, that's really good. And so it is a matter of making sure that we're coaching our agents, teaching them fundamentals, because going back to 2020 and 2021, it was falling in their laps,
Yeah.
and it was so easy. So now we had to get back and we had to teach our agents how to go after new business. And that was really my philosophy is, okay, I'm going to teach them the fundamentals, how to use their CRM, how to do the right kind of marketing, making sure that they're posting out on social media, that they're not a secret agent. And for me, that was the differentiator, just helping our agents grow and be in the right mental mindset, because this business is rough. Like, even I think top producers, we go through struggles. We're like, oh my goodness, that was a rough day.
Yep.
But luckily we're given a good night's sleep and we can come back and do it tomorrow. Having that short-term memory, we might've had a really good month the previous month, and it's forgetting about that good month and rebuilding another good month behind it. So
That is so true. And I love that every day you got to do the same process over and over again. It's that repetition of a proven process over and over that just it creates the results.
yeah.
Kevin, you mentioned something there just off the cuff that I don't want to go unnoticed by somebody that's listening to this looking for a way to grow their business. You host post-closing parties for the real estate agents with their clients. Can you unpack that a little bit and talk about that? Is that like a way to generate more referrals after the deal, or is it just value-based? Like, talk to us about that.
It really is. I'd have to say that I don't think it's selfish in saying that we want to celebrate. Really, we do. We want to celebrate because we do find lots of friendships from our clients. But it's a celebration. Like, there's a lot of people that we help out that have never purchased a home before. And what, like, you buy a house, it's the biggest investment someone is likely going to have in their entire lifetime. So let's celebrate. But it's also an opportunity to get in front of that sphere, that client sphere. And really, it's very organic. You don't have to say anything. You go to the housewarming party. Our marketing team kind of puts it on. We'll do the Eventbrite for it. We'll organize the food so that it's all done for our client. We'll attend it. It doesn't have to be longer than 2 hours, but we'll go to it, and they're going to brag about you. You know,
Huh.
it just happens. It's just the nature of that type of event. And so if an LO had a great process, let's say you have a great process, great communication, and then you follow up with a housewarming party, now you have an opportunity to market to that entire sphere.
Yeah.
And it's really easy to acquire new business with that type of event following up with a great closing.
Yeah.
And so, you know, we put it into practice. Not everyone wants to take us up on it. And if they don't want to, then let's go out to dinner. You know, if you don't want to, you know, you've got some things that you're doing at the house and it's not ready for a party, let's just go out to dinner together.
Right.
And so it's just been a great time to catch up and really create a better friendship with some of these. And it's not happening with every transaction.
Yeah.
I wish it did happen more often, but it's a percentage that we're trying to increase, and it's actually a really good marketing call after closing, so that we can stay in touch with that client, stay in touch with that agent, and again creating more opportunity for that agent as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And so are you also like you do post close follow up with the consumer and then post follow up close with the agent that you worked on the transaction? Do you also have a process in the business to follow up with the real estate professional on the other side of the transaction post close?
We do. We've built out we've built out through Monday.com.
Right.
That's the system that we use for task management.
Yep.
And so I have my business development. She actually reaches out to every listing agent after the closing. We ask them their shirt size, because then we send them a T-shirt. You know, it's simple. It's a Realtor.strong or a Selling Tennessee or whatever area it is. You know, it's something that they can wear to grow their business and be seen by the public to say, "Are you a real estate agent?" "Yeah, actually, I am a real estate agent." But they can proudly wear it. And there's small branding on the back of it. It's not like a huge amount of branding, but on the top of the shoulder, you know, we've got our logo there so that they can always see it whenever they wear it. But, you know, we do reach out to them, and then we put them in our database to make sure that we continue to market to them. If we have any coaching that's taking place, because we do have coaches come in and they're teaching the fundamentals each and every month, we invite them to those events. But oftentimes, because, you know, what we have is free marketing. When we start a process on a transaction, we can market to the buyer's agent. We can obviously market to the buyer, but it's also a huge opportunity to market to the listing agent. And so we take that opportunity. It's free marketing. You've got their listening ear.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to explain to them the process and where we are at all the milestones, but it's also an opportunity to talk about different things that we offer to them as well. So that's probably been one of the biggest things is we're trying to create a team process. Yes, we're bringing real estate agents together, the buyer's agent, the listing agent, all together to make this a cohesive process. And we've seen a lot of success with that.
That is amazing. So just a blatant plug, but something that I think that you would have a chuckle with. So we're always looking for ways to get real estate agents to like laugh or be like, "Oh, that's cool," or "That's interesting." And I'm really deep into AI and AI tools and just what's next, right? So I had this really big listing agent who was a friend of mine, and he pumped out this. It was like a $13 million listing or something crazy like that. And I had this idea because I was messing around with AI. I was like, I wonder if I could create a podcast about that listing for him and send it to him. And it was like an exercise of like, can I do this? Can I figure this whole thing out? And I ended up developing this system where you can put in the listing address or like the URL of the listing of the agent, and you hit go, and it produces a full episode of two AIs talking back and forth to each other about the listing and like what's happening in the market, and it like sells the listing and then promotes the agent at the end of the podcasting. So it's listingpodcast.com, and we ended up like putting a website up to like promote these things, but they're such a great talking tool with the real estate agent. So if you ever have an agent that you've got a good relationship with and you want to kind of like send them something to like restart a conversation or get them a laugh, you might want to check it out.
Yeah, that's a fabulous idea. I mean, anytime that we can get a listening ear and show that value, and you know, it's a great conversation piece. So you said it's listing agent.
So listingpodcast.com is
Okay.
the
All right.
website address. But just
Yep.
if you've got a listing, just shoot it to me. Just text me or like shoot me an email. I'll create one for you. I'll send it over to you so you can have a
Perfect.
laugh.
Perfect.
But the reason I bring it up is because it's providing the value and building the relationship and always being on that front end of the marketing side of things, which you guys do such a good job with. But that leads me to the question of how intentional are you with the agents that you go after? Will you network with all agents? Do you only have a qualified list that you go after for relationships? Like, how intentional are you about the process of who you work with?
It really is pretty intentional. I mean, there's so many different tools that we use right now. We're using Redder, we're using MMI, we're using list reports, we're using our local MLS services to really dial in on who we need to go after.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure a lot of producers, they get requests to do marketing with them, to do open houses, and at the end of the day, they're not reciprocating and doing what they're supposed to do as agents. They're not staying in their trade and they're not focusing. They've got, it's fine. You got to do what you got to do. Maybe you have two jobs, and that's great. But at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I'm your accountability partner. I want to make sure that we're doing things together. And if they're not remaining accountable on the other side of things, it's not necessarily someone that I want to use my resources on. But I want to give agents every opportunity. But typically what we're doing is we are using those different resources, the Redders of the world, and then obviously social media to see who's doing what. And so we do a lot of research. Like, we've got our realtor boards, and it's kind of it looks like we're stalkers, I guess, in some ways, but we're just doing the research.
Yep.
We research, and then we have, typically I'm making a phone call to see, just really, I've used a lot of techniques that you guys have, just complimenting them on their business and making sure that we're giving them accolades. Would you mind sharing? Or would you give us an opportunity to maybe showing you something that we're doing to maybe take some of these things off of your plate so that you don't have to use the resources? And really, we've had a lot more success with that. Typically what we'll do is we will dial in on some of these different companies that are in more rural areas. We go to them because we understand maybe they don't have all the resources. And so by making that call to them, we then set up a presentation, and then I go in and show them, okay, I want to take this marketing off of your plate, and our team will do it for you. We're going to give you all the resources that some of these big companies do use, and then we'll provide it to you. So it's dual purpose. It's also retention for some of these other brokers that really don't have all the resources, and we'll do that for them.
Yep.
And so, we're going in, we're educating them on the market. We're doing different presentations, talking about how the 2008 market is not very similar to the market that we're in currently. That's just some of it. It's just, doing educational classes on AI, how to use it and how to implement some of these different resources. And so that's really, like, I think maybe a decade ago, I got some advice from a company that was doing quite a bit of business. And really, they didn't have a lot of originators. But the one key thing that they were doing was lots of presentations.
Yep.
They did it on a mass scale. And so I kind of took that advice, and I really didn't implement that. Yes, I was doing some back in like 2015, but it wasn't like on a large scale. The scale that I do it on now is at least 1 or 2 times a week. I'm in front of maybe 50 to 100 real estate agents every week. And that's the key. I mean, you have to be talking to agents, and a lot of them, because in this business right now, you have about 20% that are doing 80% of the business.
That's right.
And so you might be talking to an agent that really doesn't do a whole lot of business, and it might take many months to have anything come out of it. So you've got to talk to the masses. And so really the presentations, if an originator wants to grow their business, obviously you dial in on your process, making sure that you have to have a great process.
Yep.
And you've got to get out of your process and then hire someone to do that for you. And then working on the relationships, educating them. And I think that's really where the value comes in, is making sure that we're helping our agents, because they're partners. We've got to make sure that they're in a good spot to continue to have growth and success.
Yep. I could not agree more. And so, such good. So Kevin, thank you for sharing with us, but you touched on something that's also had a significant impact in my career. So maybe we'll highlight on that. And then if I may, I've got 2 more questions for you.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
the volume of output that you're putting on your presentations, because I have so many people in the mortgage business that are like, I'm going to start doing presentations. I'm going to do 1 a month. And it's like, awesome, great. If you're doing none, 12 a year is great. But if you go from monthly to weekly, like you go from 12 to 52, right? Yeah. And
Yeah, 50.
then if you do 2 a week, you put yourself to 104 presentations. Like, look at the difference of just bi-weekly compared to monthly. How many more at bats is that with the agents? And it's actually, in my opinion, easier to do something twice a week than it is to do it once a month. Once a month is this massive production and you forget how to do it. And it's just all this stuff. But it's like, hey, no, I record podcasts on Tuesdays and Fridays. It's like, that's it. Now I'm doing 2 a week and the volume of output just goes up exponentially. So you sharing that with people who are looking to build relationships with qualified real estate agents, like, you got to put in the reps. You got to have the volume behind the activity. That's so valuable.
Yeah, and I think it's, there's so many different real estate companies out there. There's so many real estate agents out there, and here in Tennessee, that's really where I focus a lot in. There's different states that I'm licensed in, like 9 different states. But really, I've focused in. There's so much business in all of our different
Yeah.
markets. Like, really, you don't have to go too far outside of your market. Whether you want to do a presentation over the phone, whether you want to do it, a Zoom call, whether you want to do it in person, there's huge opportunity. I've stepped outside of, like I'm doing different states like the Arkansas, the Mississippis, and the Floridas and the Texases.
Mm-hmm.
And I found some really good advocates that get me in front of a lot of agents. And really, I think that's important is once you start showing your value and your knowledge in some of these areas, they're going to want to bring you on weekly.
Yeah.
Like, I have some agents that want me to come on weekly for their state meetings. And I'm like, okay, absolutely. I'll do it. It's wonderful. And so, that when it becomes weekly with some of these same different entities, then you have to create more presentations.
Yeah.
And so the joy of it all is that if I don't have a creative idea, typically you can talk about the market. Everyone wants to know what's taking place in the market. We can talk about the shutdown. We can talk about a lot of different things that are taking place in the market. But if you wanted to talk about, something that was fresh, you can always use ChatGPT. You can always use AI to give you a little bit of information, and it starts to learn from you, and you can use these to create quick presentations. Now you've got to do your job and making sure that you have something that you can talk about. But it really is a simple process to create new presentations, and once you start doing them, it really becomes, it's like talking on the phone. So I would definitely recommend doing as many presentations as you possibly can. But oftentimes, like, I was doing the same presentation for like 5 months straight. Then I had another presentation. I did the same one for 5 months straight. So, you can get really good at a presentation, and still everyone hasn't heard your presentation.
That's right. Yep, that's absolutely right. Okay, so in the interest of time, I have to ask, what is your number one database marketing strategy to bring in business from your database, in addition to the agent relationships that you've got?
Yeah, we use a lot of different tools. Like, I use MyHomeIQ.
Oh, nice.
That's one of the database tools that we use.
Yeah.
Everyone wants to know the value of their home.
Yep.
It's easy. Like, you can use that. It doesn't cost a whole lot of money. Yeah, you pay for the different reports, but then not only for my database, but then I can go sell it to other agents. And that's another presentation that I do, is just on MyHomeIQ. We used to use HomeBot, but we started using MyHomeIQ. So we use that. We also use AI callers because it's difficult. Once you start producing, a decent amount of business, it's hard to make that phone call
Yep.
every time to that consumer and touching them every 4 months. So we've utilized AI callers to make the call. And sometimes if they haven't heard from us and they're like, okay, this girl named Kayla, she just called me. Is this legit? I'm like, absolutely, it's legit. It's our AI caller. And then it allows me to have a good conversation with that client.
Yep.
So, even if you don't have a great like they don't have a great conversation with the AI agent, they're going to reach out to you and be like, is this a legit person? This person just called me from Lending Hand Mortgage, and they sounded a little bit AI-ish. Like, it's so good, they don't even know 100% if it's AI.
Right.
So yeah, we're utilizing that. And I think that's majority. We do send out calendars to them once a year so that we can stay on the refrigerator. We send out Christmas card. That's another one that we send out. And I'll be honest, we probably don't do as much with our database, our current database, as we should. That's one thing that we're trying to work on. We've beefed up our staff just so we can have better conversations with our clients after closing.
That's amazing. So I have to ask, because I'm the AI guy. So we launched out what I would consider to be like a mid-scale test with outbound AI agents, and did not get positive feedback on it. So are you finding like the people are just more inquisitive when they're calling back, or is it actually booking appointments? Is it sending people like, hey, a refinance might make sense, fill out your application? Like, what's your true experience been with those outbound agents?
Well, the good news is that an AI caller, for instance, like ours, we'll put in like 3,000 clients at a time.
Wow.
Out of that 3,000 clients, and she's calling them quickly.
Oh, yeah.
You're seeing the numbers take place, like it's rolling through quickly. And so our campaigns are a little bit different. Like I might have a campaign that's for, just reaching out, making sure that they're enjoying their home. I have another one that I use for pre-approvals. I have another one that I use for, the irresistible offer.
Yep.
Like if we talk to an agent, say, hey, I know you probably have some leads that you couldn't convert. Can we call them for you? This is what we can do for you. It doesn't cost anything. We're going to bring them to life.
Right.
But going back to our past database, we'll oftentimes get only about 1% that will actually get on the calendar.
Okay.
But you can still see the transcripts. So out of, let's say 3,000, we might get 30 people that will get onto the calendar, but that's still a lot in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it's very inexpensive too. $500 a month for most AI callers, maybe $1,000, just depending on the structure of it.
Yep.
But it's really a drop in the bucket for the amount of communication that you can get with your past database.
Yeah, that's amazing. Awesome. Kevin, thank you for sharing that. That's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay, so final question. How do people find out more about you and your business and get in touch with you?
Well, the good news is I'm the only Kevin Kenerson that does mortgages. So you can go to my Instagram, you can go to Facebook. Don't do as much as I'd like to with TikTok. But yeah, you can go to, I'm Kevin Kenerson. So easy to find on Facebook or Instagram.
Awesome. And we will have that in the show notes of the show. Kevin, again, thank you for being so generous with your knowledge and for sharing with us today. I sincerely appreciate having you on the show.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris.